Hello everybody, how's it going today? It's Frankie and I'm back with another movie review, and this movie is called Fractured. Now, when I read about this movie, I was like, it's up my street, it's a good mystery, about, someone need to find out what's going on, and you know what I mean, but when I talk about the movie. But watch this movie before watching this video, because this movie, I heard the ending part, it kind of wasn't, it didn't fill me up as such, because it could have been what most people would have predicted the ending to be, but I didn't expect the ending to be like that. I'll break it down for you. I will skip past a lot of dialogue, because a movie like this is going to have a lot of talking. So it starts off with this guy called Ray, and he's with his wife Joanne and his daughter Perry in the car, and they stop at a gas station because Perry's got toilets of her. They come at the gas station, and I think she says she lost something or something like that, and he looks at it for the backseat of his car, and Perry goes off, and she sees a balloon in the distance, and she gets a bit like impressed by that, as kids would. And then a dog comes into it and barks at her, and then he throws a rock to scare off the dog, but then she falls as well when he tries to jump and it saves her. He wakes up and he hits, his head is he was unconscious, and he wakes up, and his wife is just like screaming at him, saying she's okay, and his daughter has a fracture, fractured arm. I remember when I first had a fractured arm, it's a killer, trust me. So I had breaking an arm because I haven't broken one before, but fracturing is painful as well. And goes to the hospital, and he then begins to see something weird about the hospital. Bear that in mind, I thought the hospital was weird too, but it's not quite as it seems. It doesn't work that way. You understand what I mean when I get to it. Goes to the hospital, and he wants to check in. There's a lot of people. He gets stressed. He puts down his name, as the receptionist said, and then he goes and sees they go see a doctor regarding her fractured arm. They come against that nurse Anne that talks about it, and then Dr. Bertram comes into it. It's like a woman saying Bertram comes into it, and he says, and the way he talks, you think he's talking a bit weird. And he says, everybody has to have their first fall, right? And he talks about her eyes and stuff. I thought it was weird. I thought the hospital was weird in general. And he gets up, and they get seen by Nurse Anne, for example. And but Dr. Bertram also talks about Ray's head need to be checked, and saying that it's got to get in for that head injury because there's something wrong with her head. Because after that fall, she was being a little bit her head was a bit sore. They wanted to check in for the for some sort of CAT scan, something like that, to check on their brain. And then that's when Nurse Anne comes into it. They go down this lift, and they go down to the lower level, and that felt a bit weird, because the stuff he was seeing at the hospital was a thing where people come at the a hospital van, and then this person, this guy that works and got paid or something like that. I found it a bit weird. You know what I mean? And even he was looking a bit confused, because the hospital looked a bit weird. So go down lower level, which I didn't realise that's where scans were, so I found that a bit confusing too. And there was only allowed one visitor, so he stepped back. And he wakes up, and then he says, I'm here to see him. I'm waiting for my my wife and daughter. They're not quite there to be seen. There's no record of them, and he was a bit confused. Now, I love movies like this, because obviously there's always movies that have the typical endings. You know what I mean when they get to it. And he asks what's going on, and then saying what's happened. He wants to ask the different doctors, and the doctor never heard of no record of them, and he starts to act a bit mental, which isn't the best way to handle things. But I'll be crazy too in that situation. I'll be like, what the hell was happening? What's going on? And then this officer had to escort him out, and he was injected with a sedative or something like that to make him go to sleep, and they get put in his room against his will. That's that way to me, because you just put in there. I thought the hospital was mad too. I thought they were harboring a big secret, bear that in mind. And then and he breaks through this window, proceeds to break out. And there's more dialogue in this. And then he has to run from his office because he wants to get into to where his car was or something like that. And then he sees a police car, and he goes out, and he was like, I need some help. Now bear that in mind, the police wouldn't believe someone like this in this sort of situation. So I wouldn't trust them, but they investigate. They said the family taken against his will. All the doctors was like, saying nope, he's a bit crazy. Even Dr. Bertram, who was convenient to, in his words, convenient took a day off after all this was happening, and another doctor that was there that also was taking time off and convenient. So even that made me suspicious. Goes and there was like they're checking everywhere. They even looked at the records, and then they started to look at the CCTV, and there was nothing showing of his wife and daughter there. So you're thinking, what's going on? What is happening? I find that a bit suspicious too. But then, he was out there sitting there, and there's no camera angles showing where they were, and it's like, what is happening? I mean, is this guy really telling the truth, or what's going on? And he goes like, still goes a bit crazy, and they just, he gets introduced to Dr. Jacobs, a psychiatrist, and he tells her, talks about his ex-wife, his wife that passed away from like a car crash. He basically told us to like, I forgot the woman's name that was working at the computer, asking about his some insurance number or something like that, and asking about any history of this and that. I didn't know hospitals was asked that if there's an injury like that. I thought they'd just see the patient straight away. So that also made me suspicious, talking about alcohol and stuff like that. And his ex-wife passed years ago, and he said there's nothing to do with that. And they were saying he came in and started talking about his ex-wife, and I tend to be still grieving over her or whatnot. So they say he came in a bit crazy. The psychiatrist said she does believe him, and then they go to the site, and she says, "Oh, I agree. We should go back to what happened with the accident." So it goes back, and they go visit the supposed crime scene. You know what's the crime scene soon. Goes and he starts to like it starts to go a bit like it gets too emotional, too stressed out, and they started checking. They saw like a tiny makeup mirror that children would use, and anyway, I think women do use it as a flip, mirror. You women know what I'm talking about. And then sees that in the dirt, and they see a lot of blood, saying, "This is too much blood just for a tiny injury. What did you do? What happened?" And the guy said, "I didn't kill my family. I didn't kill him." And he starts to break down in tears, like he did something wrong, but and he was saying, "I threw a rock at a dog, and the dog ran off," because and they didn't believe him, and they were about to arrest him, and he sees the same dog in the distance. I was like, oh, he probably is telling the truth then. I thought he probably would be a bit crazy. And in my mind, I'm thinking, have they been dead the entire time? Excuse me, have they been dead the entire time? And in my mind, I was thinking, using this sort of scenarios, the person is actually crazy. So I was thinking, they can't be dead for sure. I mean, come on, like the doctors are talking to him, it can't be dead for sure. But then the psychiatrist said, "Oh, you create scenarios in your head in this situation." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then when he saw the dog, he grabbed the gun and he just decided to put all of the people in like the back end of this cafe. I don't know, pit stop or whatever it's called, gas station. Like locked him in there. Went to the hospital, and he went to the ground floor. And then making sure nobody saw him. And there's like a bit of a scuffle between him and this security guard. Because he really wanted to go down to the lower level. Even I was curious to know where that level was. I was like, is there some sort of something dark going on there? Because that's the only level you need a key. You're gonna see why. And then and he strangles this guard to death, goes down, and he sees these patients there, and he sees like an organ box, and he was like, he went a bit crazy with that. I was like, oh, what's going on? The organs, what's happening? He gets a bit panic, and he sees like the teddy bear that was given by the nurse to his daughter. So I was like, oh, he must be telling the truth then, surely. The story's got me all going like a bit confused. I was like, it made me second guess myself every step of the way. And I was like, okay, it must be telling the truth, because that's the same toy that Perry was given by Dr. Bruce. And then he goes in this room, and you see him, you see like Perry on the table, and they're going to operate on her. They're going to remove her organs, and he sees like Joanne there, his wife. I was thinking, oh, he's actually telling the truth. This is one of those movie endings where he's actually found them, and they don't even say what's going on. Then he starts putting the gun on all the doctors that were there that he spoke to, and he's like, "Go away from me." And then I forgot not Dr. Bevan, but I forgot this doctor's name now. He said, "Oh, you're not seeing things clearly, and you're not thinking clearly." Because I know, and you see John in the wheelchair, and then he tries to like, they try to put him in the bed, they want to sedate him, and he shoots up the light, and bang, there's an explosion because he did shoot a pipe. Takes her out, and he begins to see one of the doctors like, you make a big mistake, don't do this, man, please don't do this. And he's like, shoots his leg, goes out, and takes him to takes him into the car. So you're thinking, oh wow, can take him home, but surely there's a deeper ending to this. It doesn't, no movie just ends like that. Surely what's going on. In the car, they drive off, and yeah, he was like, he said, I think Perry said, we're gonna go home now, Daddy. Can you sing me a song? And he sings a Rainbow song. And then the camera pans to the mirror, and there's no one sitting at the back. It's a different dead body sitting at the back. What? I'm sorry, what? My mind is blown. A dead body sitting at the back. It wasn't even Joanne's or Perry's body. It was somebody else that he took, and it flashes back to him taking another patient. He didn't actually see him. He was just having a hallucination in his mind. He was actually not thinking clearly whatsoever. And it flashes back to him, with how, his daughter fallen, that hit her head. And I was just like, when I saw that, I was just like, oh, I had a feeling that injury was not a factor because she fell on her back. Surely she would have hit her head. And loads of blood came pouring out. She would have died at the scene. No, I mean, this movie made me second guess. And then you see a snippet of him throwing his wife and her hitting the head on a spike or a nail, whatever it was, right, on a nail. I was like, he did this the entire time, and his mind was making him go crazy because he didn't want to believe he would do that. So, I mean, even the way he threw her, I was like thinking, as the movie went, I was like, oh, then he threw her. Surely she would have fell with that fall. I had an image in my mind where he threw her and it hit her head. But then obviously this movie wasn't necessarily pointing towards that straight away. That would have made it obvious. He imagined a scenario in his head that wasn't real. And you see his facial expression just cut the seriousness. Like, he was frustrated with something, like he knew what he'd done. Like, what? Wow. I wouldn't say that. My face was like, what? Because I did not expect that ending to actually be that. I thought the hospital was literally crazy. What I didn't get in this movie, there's some snippets of it I didn't get, is what was that teddy bear about? Was it somebody else's teddy bear and he mistook it thinking that, oh, the nurse actually give it to his daughter? Another thing is, why would they be so secretive? And they even said, they even had a record of his name being chucked in the bin. They found it because they chucked all the names out because they have it in the system. And parts of it was like the odd one or two scenes didn't make much sense there with the whole lines and the storyline. It's got a bit confused because surely they wouldn't be talking to him, but that was all in his mind. So that's probably why I'm probably just going to rant at this point. Yeah, absolutely. I love movies like that where you find out the person was actually crazy, but I had an image in my mind where they did die, but I didn't expect it to be in that manner. Which is strange for me to say because this movie made me second guess every single time in every scene. It was like, is he actually crazy or isn't he? But I thought the hospital also was involved in some conspiracy because of how weird and shady they acted, and especially how the patients were acting. So clever how the movie made me think like that. It's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. The storyline, the plot behind it, especially the ending where it kind of got predictable along the way, like, oh, he probably is grieving, and all the situations add up to him grieving and his daughter might being dead. It kind of, I like how they messed me around because it should be classified as a thriller mystery. I looked on the site, it said thriller, right? It's more of a mystery to me because it kind of made me second guess. I like movies like that. Kind of maybe have all sorts of theories. I don't know, most of you probably already knew that it was, that they died the entire time. It kind of was probably obvious. But maybe, I don't know, it's kind of confusing because what if all the doctors knew that they weren't actually there and they acted like they were there because of him, and then they also found a scarf next to a bed, which made me also believe that they took her and did something. But how did he... So, that's mad. And they also show a scene of the bodies wrapped up in a car. And that made me think he actually did all that. And yeah, his wife was accidental. his daughter was actually accidental and he didn't mean it. But damn, that's so deep though. I love the storyline behind it. I wouldn't say it's the greatest movie ever, isn't it? I wouldn't say it's a flawless, incredible movie. The acting, for me, phenomenal. Every single bit of them did their part. The hospital, I gotta say, this movie did a good job of making you second guess. Because you maybe think, okay, you know, on one hand, you know, he took him to the hospital, they probably did something shady. On another hand, you know, they did die, and you know, but yet the hospital did something with the organs after he took them there. But then the whole story, like, it's just all crazy. I kind of love it. Could have done with it being a little less messy and a bit more clear on that one. Yeah, the rating's tough. And for a fact, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure that's the guy that played Jack Reacher in that movie, Jack Reacher, you know, a Reacher. I'm pretty sure that's him. And is that the same guy that also played Thad in Blue Mountain State? Let me know in the comments. I saw the picture of how he actually looks. I don't know if it's a different person. Well acted. Everybody played a part in the acting. Excuse me. I don't know what to rate this. It's not the greatest movie ever. I like the storyline. It's a good movie, but after half an hour, that's what made disappointment. I know it builds up, but half an hour, it got a little slow building up to it, I gotta say. But that's just how the movie is, I guess. Yeah, this movie has gone on for too long now. Rating, I'm gonna give it maybe an 8. I was gonna give it a 9, but then I thought maybe a 9. I'll give it an 8 for now. It's a questionable one because man, it's one of those two. You know what? It's still a good movie. 8 or 9 is still good ratings, right? So I'll give them that. So yeah, 8 out of 10 is. If you enjoyed the video, please give a like, comment, share, you know, subscribe and hit the bell notification below. So see you in the next video.